If TikTok is saved, who actually owns your voice? The Chinese state, a US cloud giant, or a brand new gatekeeper you didn't even vote for? Tonight, we're not reacting to headlines. We're reading the fine print and mapping who can flip the kill switch on your feed. You've heard two phrases, there's national security and then there's free speech. Both matter, but the truth lives in governance. Who gets audit rights? Who can demand source code access? And who holds a veto when politics heats up? By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what a qualified divestiture is, where oversight power sits, and what creators should do right now to protect reach and revenue. But literally, how did we get here? And this literally started back in 2020. And that's when Trump was in power in his first term. And so he really wanted to get control over TikTok because he thought it was a sense of national security. That brings us to 2022. And this has been a bipartisan issue. Biden wanted control of it as well. And then they came up with Project Texas, and Oracle has actually been housing this data in Texas since about 2022. 2023, Montana puts a ban on TikTok. And that's when the CEO testifies against Congress, and they're saying this is illegal. I think it's a great thing. My daughter had to her counselor suggested that she get rid of TikTok, and she actually did it. And I'm telling you, this is a 15-year-old teenage girl, and it's been a world of difference. It's been the best thing that's ever happened to her. So I don't really care what happens to TikTok at this point, but it is going to go through a lot more restrictions now that it is actually housed here. And that was part of the point. Now that we hit 2024, they want to get more control over TikTok and housing the data here on American soil, which they have done. So again, that brings us to 2025. After Trump, they actually got rid of TikTok for about, 24 hours. He brought it back when he became president. It was one of his first official executive orders to bring it back. But then ever since then, he's been negotiating this deal with ByteDance and to how America is really going to get control over this data. So Washington has been pressuring ByteDance data localization and product bans since 2022. So they've really been housing all this data since then. So again, we have back in 2022, they have Project Texas, American operations monitored by subsidiary TikTok, U.S. data security, Oracle allowed to review TikTok's code and software, all U.S. data traffic to move through Oracle Cloud. And that's an important thing to remember here. So Washington has really put the pressure on ByteDance since then. And the data localization, they've been auditing it. There's been potential bans, but negotiators float now, they're coming up with this new code structure in the US. And they have trustees, third party code review, and then again, the cloud host, which is still going to be Oracle. The White House has signaled it's accepting a qualified divestiture framework and not a full sale, but not status quo either. So the whole qualified divestiture, and it's the term qualified divestiture, means a divestiture or similar transaction the president determines through an interagency process would result in the relevant foreign adversary controlled application no longer being controlled by a foreign adversary, being i.e. China. The president determines through an interagency process precludes the establishment or maintenance of any operational relations between the United States operations or the relevant foreign adversary controlled application and any formally affiliated entities that are controlled by a foreign adversary, including any cooperation with respect to operation of a content recommendation algorithm or an agreement with respect to data sharing. So essentially, they are taking control over TikTok, and it's for these reasons. So a TikTok NewCo is it's going to be a new US-based holding company that would oversee TikTok's US operations with the goal of addressing national security. I remember that national security is supposed to be the main reason, and concerns in ensuring majority American ownership. With previous proposals from companies like Perplexity AI suggested U.S. government stake and 𝐬𝐝. The final deal is expected to be led by a consortium of U.S. investors, including Oracle, Silver Lake, Andreessen Horowitz, and the majority American-controlled company holding the app's algorithm and operation. So essentially, they're taking this all back onto U.S. soil. So, so now there's it's a new ringleader. This is a new entity, and the ingredients often control. Again, they have one trustee and directors, and they're all approved by U.S. authorities. And two, they have independent auditors with continuous access to systems and updates. Three, they have data localization on US soil, typically on a contracted cloud, which is Oracle. And then four, they have an escrowed or supervised source code review, not full public release, but not a black box either. And then five, they have emergency controls. And essentially, it is the kill switch. And that's legal levers to pause features, updates, or even the algorithm push signals if risk thresholds are met. So, what is it? This is before and after this whole thing has gone down. So before ByteDance was at the top. So they were like they were here. And then so the US was just a region of TikTok. So after this, the new co with an American board, they have all the compliances with the trustees. They have the contractual audits rights for all designated US authority. What's really crucial here is that influence can persist through licenses, royalties, or even shared models. So the details really, really matter in this. So again, you have Oracle, which is going to be the number one company that's holding almost 80% of TikTok. And they work with Silver Lake would play key roles in TikTok and the deal between Trump administration and China. But here's where I think everything gets very, very interesting. Again, Oracle, so they're trying to do this so they don't want information brought overseas, and this is a foreign security issue. However, Oracle is the tech giant that will host all US TikTok user data on its servers, but the company's leadership has long-standing ties to Israel and the IDF. Safra Katz, she is the CEO. She's Israeli American born and whole in Israel. In 2024, she was quoted saying, "Employees who are not loyal to both America and Israel have no place at Oracle." Has reportedly attended closed door meetings with Israel officials and military leaders, including Bibi Netanyahu. And then you have Larry Ellison, and he is essentially the owner of Oracle. And it's key to note here is he was the number one outside donor to the IDF, and he has given over 26 million to the IDF and the illegal settlements with Palestine. So both the are Oracle, who is housing TikTok data, is 100% pro-Israel, and they are going to be the ones dissecting all the data. They're housing all the data, and they don't want any of this data going overseas for any foreign security issues. But yet, essentially, it's all going to be in Israel hands. So if this guy is giving money to the IDF, $26 million, you're not going to think he's going to share any of this data with Israel. Again, TikTok US takeover led by IDF supporters. To me, it seems like a conflict of interest, but what do I know? So there's three levers to this thing. And so lever one, you have data infrastructure. If everything rides in US soil, then the cloud is going to be kept 100% on US soil, and they are going to control it. They're also going to control the algorithm and the governance over the algorithm, which is very interesting because, again, you're going to have a company that is 100% in Israel's back pocket, wanting to house all the algorithms and then the governance of all the TikTok data. And then you have the compliancy triggers. So again, everything that's going to keep compliance with TikTok is going to be through the lens of a company that is 100% pro-Israel, pro-IDF. And which brings me to the next point, and who is going to be pretty much the gatekeeper to all of this. And that, of course, is an ex-Israeli soldier. And she is appointed the hate speech manager. And so a lot of this shit is going to be dealt through this person. Again, all roads lead back to Israel. It never ends. And so TikTok has appointed Erica Mindel, a self-described proud American Jew and former Israeli military instructor, as its new public policy manager for hate speech, a move that comes amid heightened scrutiny over the platform's handling anti Semitic and extremist content. TikTok has not issued an official comment on this appointment. Mendel, she's already assumed this position since July, and she is tasked with shaping the company's hate speech policy, leading strategic initiatives, and serving as TikTok's internal and external expert on anti Semitism. And that is definitely according to her LinkedIn profile. So, again, all roads lead back to Israel. So, all these pipelines and guardrails are literally going to be funneled through her. So, it just seems like such a conflict of interest to me, but it's just unbelievable. They're creating this, they're trying to put this back on US soil. They're trying to make sure that all this information is filtered through the US, but that yet they have Israeli companies that is 100% in Israeli back pocket and is literally the gatekeeper to all the information you're going to be fed to through TikTok. But I tried to look at it this both sides and what is like the Steelman's case for this arrangement. Well, first thing is that there's going to be transparency. At least there's going to be continuous audits and they get to look at the dark box and there's trust going to be there, but there's domestic leverage. If things go sideways, US authorities can really compel changes and then really fast. But then there's the legal defense to it. Courts prefer measured remedies over binary bans, and structured models look reasonable to judges who have to weigh constitutional claims. But against that, then you have on the other side, you have the cosmetic control risk. If core model training or moderation playbooks still depend on foreign inputs, governments is surface level theater. And then you have the speech choke points. A centralized risk gate can become a policy choke. Even if well intended today, it's lever future officials could pull political ends. And then you have the precedent. So then you have TikTok doing this. And then what is going to be next? Then they're going to do Instagram, they're going to do YouTube. Essentially, what is next? So, for if you're really like if you're a creator, what does this mean to you? So first, you have to divest like your funnel, do YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, and you really have to change your algorithm there. And then also own your audience, launch or revive the newsletter, get people's email list. And then you have sponsors like insert a platform, through contract hygiene, deliverables, shift to shorts or reels, and then literally change your whole business to open up to other content. And then there's insurance, keep local masters captions, maintain a mirrored content calendar that you can literally deploy anywhere. So, with all these recommendations, like your For You page is going to be completely changed. This is going to be, um, I don't know, is the privacy going to be washed away and what's going to happen now? So there's literally three wild cards that like could change everything. The court challenges could argue that the arrangement is either too weak to address national security or the government overreach that violates the First Amendment. This has not gone through the courts yet, but this is literally in the works and is just waiting for the that seal of compliance there through the courts. And then you have deadlines. There's going to be code review, data migration milestones, and then they're going to be auditing all this reporting. And then you have congressional pressure can add new conditions after this deal, which passes today, that might face new requirements after the midterms. So always follow the incentives. Incumbent platforms benefit if TikTok hesitates or stumbles, and ad dollars are fickle and attention is zero sum. The cloud vendor gains steady revenue and policy prestige, a model to sell to other governments. Regulation can get a template to apply to other apps. Like I said, what's new? Is it Temu? They can put some regulation in Temu's. I ordered some shit from there, and that stuff was the worst ever. worst shit ever from I don't know where the hell they get their stuff. It's cheap, but it's shitty cheap. So, these are things to look for into what is really gonna happen here, and who is gonna authorize that actual kill switch, which is gonna be very interesting, and they're gonna have essentially what I think is gonna happen is they're gonna have all this data that they say that has been a foreign policy issue or foreign security issue. Now they have it sent to Texas. It's gonna be sitting there in Texas. It's gonna be run by a company that is the number one contributor to the IDF, has given the IDF $26 million, and they're also going to be the kill switch for any hate speech or speech that they don't want on the platform is going to be through the lens of someone who is an ex-Israeli soldier. I just for the life of me, I don't understand how Israel has so much control over what's going on in the US, and I don't and here's another thing. I think this is all gone under the radar. I think what they're putting out there in the press is like, "Hey, we got TikTok. We have it under US soil. We're gonna house all this information. This is a security issue. Yes, we got it all here. Everything's great." But when you lift the veil, you realize, "Oh, no, it's actually a company that's in the back pocket of Israel that's giving money to the IDF." They're gonna have one person that's gonna be controlling the hate speech and monitoring, being the gatekeeper for all things that go through TikTok, and she's an ex-Israeli, soldier. She worked for the IDF. And it's just unbelievable, and I think that's what's being hid, and I talked to my son today about this, and he's 22, and I was like, "Dad, don't like, does nobody care? Does nobody give a shit?" And he's like, "No, no one cares. No, mom, no one cares, mom. No one cares." And I'm just like, "I just can't believe it. How do we not care?" And I don't know if it's just his age demographic or who or what, but it's like how I think it's just the public wants to feed you what they wanna feed you, and I think this whole Israeli thing is a bipartisan thing, so even if the news stations are very much left wing, the CNNs and all that of the world, but all their politicians are getting paid through AIPAC. So they're all pro-Israel, and people that are actually lifting the veil and going, "Holy shit, what's underneath this veil? Holy shit, Israel is really controlling us. How do they have so much power? How does the company that's going to take over TikTok, 80% of TikTok, the company that's gonna take over TikTok is pro-Israel to the point where they're the number one outside donor to the IDF, their Central Intelligence. And then don't even get me started into Palantir and all the other stuff. It's like they are infiltrating the US, and if people can't see that, it's unfortunate because if it's starting to come to the surface now and no one's actually paying attention and it's all falling under the radar, it's just gonna be an accumulate and this has been accumulating. I've done my research on this. This has been accumulating since the 1960s, 70s, since the Reagan era. This has been an accumulation of what's going on in the US and Israel. They are infiltrating every part of the US. And again, like I said, if today it's TikTok, tomorrow it's Instagram, then it's Facebook, then it's YouTube, and then it's just they are really going to control everything. And I've talked about this in one of my other videos. It's like the definition of what they consider anti-Semitism has really changed over the years. And even there's a Holocaust group that has said that the new definition of anti-Semitism is not what they believe to be true. They have a totally different definition. And if you say anything against Israel, you're an anti-Semite. And that they're not one and the same. And how that became one and the same, I have no idea. How did that happen? Have no idea. But we have to fight back and say, just because if we're not pro-Israel and we don't agree what's going on over there, and we don't agree that we want to be controlled by Israel, that we're not anti-Semite. We're not against Jews. And it's very frustrating. And I think that we just have to keep fighting back. That's the only thing we have to keep talking about it. We don't have to accept that. But this whole TikTok thing, this is falling underneath the radar. And I think something needs to be done about that. We're not listening. We're not paying attention. And according to my 22-year-old son, no one gives a shit. No one cares, mom. They only care about, what football game's on this weekend, what's going on, what am I doing tomorrow? They don't care. They don't care. But at some point, I think they are gonna have to care because your our lives are gonna be completely affected by it. And and I see a lot of the comments that come through on my channel, and it's like, "Why are we paying for Israel? Why are," like, when you get up and you work and then you pay your taxes, you have your paycheck come in, and then you have your money go to taxes and this, and you realize that the money that you're working for and that your tax money is going to support Israel and not going back into your own country. When you really look at it, I think once you see it, you can't unsee it. So I think we just have to be pushing forward, and we have to make sure people see it. We have to talk about it. We have to make sure people see it, because once you see it, you can't unsee it, and it's going to bother you, I think. Anyways, guys, please let me know your thoughts. Please like, subscribe, share. I really appreciate the comments. I love it. Learning lots. So, like I said, please like, subscribe, share, and I'll talk to you guys all soon. Thanks. And tomorrow I'm going to talk about the H-1B visa. Apparently, it's over $100,000. So I'm really going to do a deep dive into that. That's actually crazy. So, anyways, guys, stick with me till tomorrow. We're going to talk about H-1B visa and the $100,000 price tag on that. So, thanks, guys. Bye.